In northern Britain, 62 AD, little Milo stirred awake, startled by shouts and clanging metal outside. Curiosity pushed him to sneak out and see what was happening. The street was chaos. Roman soldiers, led by the ruthless Senator Corva, stormed through his Celtic village, torches blazing, swords drawn. Milo froze as he saw his father struck down before his eyes. His heart pounded, his small hands trembling. His mother screamed, rushing to shield him. But a Roman rider tore through the crowd, knocking her to the ground. Desperate, Milo tried to reach her, but it was too late. Corva's cold eyes locked on his mother, and in one swift motion, he ended her life. Milo's instincts screamed at him to run, but where? The Romans were everywhere. Then he noticed something. The soldiers weren't just attacking. They were exterminating. Corva shouted orders.
Kill them all.
Thinking fast, he decided to lay still, barely breathing. When the soldiers dragged the bodies away to a mound outside the village, Milo went with them, acting limp and lifeless. By dawn, silence fell over the smoldering ruins. Milo crawled out from the heap of corpses, shaking, his small frame drenched in sweat and fear. His eyes landed on a gruesome sight. His parents, their lifeless bodies hanging from a tree. His chest ached, but he couldn't stop to grieve. He ran into the forest, away from the Romans, away from the horror. That night, he huddled beneath a tree, but survival wasn't easy. By morning, he stumbled into a clearing and into the hands of a slave owner who had been hunting for strays. 17 years later, in Londinium, the Greek and Bellator arrived at the bustling amphitheater. They were there for something fresh, a promise of blood, spectacle, and dominance. In the arena, a slave named Milo stepped forward. No longer the terrified boy from years ago, he was now a hardened gladiator. Facing 3 Roman warriors, Milo dismantled them with brutal precision, leaving the crowd in awe. This was no ordinary fighter. Therefore, the Greek decided Milo needed a grander stage. Pompeii, with its proximity to Great Rome, would make Milo a star. As they traveled, Milo noticed a striking young woman, Cassia, riding alongside her father's wagon. She was the daughter of a wealthy Pompeian citizen. When the wagon struck a pit, their horse collapsed, thrashing in pain. Cassia, panicked and desperate, begged Milo to help. Milo approached, calm and resolute, and ended the animal's suffering with a swift, merciful motion. Cassia, though saddened, couldn't help but admire his compassion. In Pompeii, Cassia and her friend Ariadne strolled through the market, her mind heavy with unspoken thoughts about why she had returned home after a year in Rome. She avoided her parents' probing questions, masking her pain. That evening, she visited her favorite horse, asking the stable hand, Felix, to prepare him for tomorrow's ride. Meanwhile, Milo descended into the shadowy depths of the local gladiator barracks. There, Atticus, a seasoned champion, noticed the newcomer. Intrigued but skeptical, he wagered 2 glasses of wine that Milo wouldn't survive the night. Milo's reputation had already preceded him. One gladiator, seeking revenge for his brother, provoked a deadly fight. Milo struck swiftly, killing one opponent and gravely wounding another. The Greek intervened, reprimanding Bellator for not managing his fighters better, and sent Milo to Atticus's cage. Above them, Mount Vesuvius stirred, sending tremors through the earth. Felix, out in the fields, watched the nearby lake churn violently. Panic overtook him as his horse reared, throwing him off. The ground cracked beneath Felix's feet, swallowing him into the earth before he could escape. By morning, Atticus tried prying Milo's name from him, but the Celt kept his silence. Trust didn't come easily. Later, in the training yard, Atticus reminded Bellator that his promised freedom loomed after one more victory. But first, there was a duel to settle. Milo stepped up to challenge Atticus, and from the first strike, it was clear the champion had the upper hand. Milo, however, refused to yield. The fight took a darker turn when another gladiator lunged at Milo from behind with a knife. Atticus intervened, stopping the attack. He explained to Milo that no man should die without facing death honorably. Tomorrow, Atticus declared, they would finish their duel. Milo, grateful yet defiant, warned Atticus that the fight would end in his victory. Atticus only smirked, already planning his next move. Meanwhile, Senator Corva arrived in Pompeii with his assistant, Proculus. The townsfolk openly shunned the politician, turning their backs in quiet defiance. This infuriated Corva, though Cassia's parents, Severus and Aurelia, greeted him warmly, inviting him to a gala dinner. Cassia, however, was less welcoming. Her mother tried to pry into her recent return from Rome, but Cassia brushed her off, unwilling to revisit old wounds. Later, Cassia spotted her family's horse wandering back into the stables, riderless and spooked. A sinking feeling gripped her. Something had happened to Felix, and she feared the worst. In the dim cell, Milo and Atticus exchanged remarks, both confident of victory in their upcoming duel. Atticus, being the optimist, believed that defeating Milo would crown him as the ultimate champion and finally earn him his freedom. But Milo, his voice edged with bitterness, warned him not to trust the Romans, calling them deceitful cowards who never kept their promises. Their conversation was cut short when guards arrived, summoning them to Severus's villa for a new assignment. As they walked through the bustling streets, Milo's gaze locked on a familiar face, Proculus. A flood of memories hit him like a storm. This was the man who had murdered his parents. Rage simmered beneath Milo's calm exterior. Therefore, he knew he had to bide his time. At Severus's estate, the gladiators were presented like goods for hire, available for wealthy women to purchase their company for the night. While Atticus drew attention with his towering presence, Milo's focus was elsewhere. His eyes followed Cassia, the daughter of their host. She noticed a stare, as did her mother and her sharp-eyed friend. Cassia's father approached her, insisting she meet a special guest. When she saw Corva, her face darkened. It was clear they shared a past. The senator's unwanted advances had forced her to flee Rome, and now he was here in her home. The evening grew tense, and as a small earthquake rippled through the villa, panic set in. Cassia's horse broke free, wild with fear, and she demanded that Milo help calm the animal. Bellator reluctantly allowed it, and Milo approached the frightened beast. With steady hands and a calm voice, he brought it under control. Cassia, who had followed him, urged him to use the moment to escape. Milo hesitated but agreed, inviting her to come with him. She accepted, and together they fled the villa. Their freedom was short-lived. The guards soon caught up, forcing Milo to surrender. Corva, enraged by the escape, intended to kill Milo, but Cassia intervened, offering her cooperation in exchange for Milo's life. Reluctantly, Corva agreed, sentencing Milo to 15 lashes instead. Cassia begged her father to intervene, but Severus, bound by Roman authority, could do nothing. Back in the cell, Milo shared his encounter with Proculus, the man who had destroyed his family. Atticus, in turn, spoke of the loved ones he hadn't seen in over 2 decades. The two warriors found common ground in their shared pain, shaking hands in a silent agreement that their bond was stronger than the duel awaiting them. Unbeknownst to them, Corva had ordered a change in the fight schedule. Milo was to die in the first match, his death set as a spectacle to please the crowd. Morning arrived, and the amphitheater filled with spectators. Bellator, however, reminded the Greek organizer that Atticus would likely win against any opponent, making it inconvenient to grant him freedom. Therefore, the Greeks shifted the plan, ensuring Atticus would fight after Milo. As the games began, the earth groaned under the strain of Vesuvius's growing unrest. Cracks appeared in the amphitheater, but Severus dismissed warnings, unwilling to delay the event. The Greek, sensing impending doom, decided to leave the city. In the arena, the games took a theatrical turn. Severus, eager to impress Corva, staged a reenactment of the Celtic rebellion. Milo, Atticus, and other gladiators were chained to a massive tree, surrounded by dozens of opponents dressed as Roman soldiers. The odds were impossible, but Milo and Atticus fought fiercely, taking down his enemies one by one without stopping. Atticus hacked at the tree's base while Milo mounted a horse, cutting through his foes with deadly precision. In the end, Milo shattered the Roman standard, a symbolic defiance that enraged Corva. Milo's fury boiled over as he hurled a broken piece of the banner like a spear at the senator. Proculus leapt to Corva's defense, saving him at the last moment. The arena fell silent as archers surrounded Milo and Atticus, their arrows aimed. The two gladiators stood together, knowing death was near. The amphitheater roared with tension as Corva prepared to give the order, but Cassia stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of the restless crowd. She raised her thumb, signaling mercy for Milo. The audience erupted in support, forcing Corva to weigh his reputation against his anger. Cassia offered a deal. She would marry him and ensure her compliance, but only if her parents were spared. Corva, seeing an opportunity to consolidate power, agreed, though with cruel conditions. Therefore, Cassia was imprisoned in the villa, now a pawn in his game. Meanwhile, Vesuvius rumbled ominously, its fury building. Corva dismissed the fear, declaring that the gods demanded another duel. To please the crowd, he sent Proculus, Rome's champion, into the arena. Atticus was forced to the barracks so that Milo would face Proculus alone. As the gladiators clashed in a brutal fight, the volcano erupted with devastating force. Black ash darkened the sky, the ground quaked, and the amphitheater began to crumble. Chaos consumed the spectators as they scrambled to escape the collapsing structure. In the midst of the chaos, Milo fought Proculus in the underground dungeon. Using his strength and fury, Milo defeated his enemies and freed the other gladiators. Proculus fled, leaving Bellator to be torn apart by the rising anarchy. Above ground, the collapse claimed countless lives. Cassia's parents, Severus and Aurelia, were buried under rubble. In her dying breath, Aurelia begged Severus to ensure Cassia's safety. But Severus, wounded and fading fast, could do no more than hold her hand as they both succumbed to their fate. As Corva ordered Proculus to take him to the harbor, the Greek who had orchestrated much of the gladiator games escaped the city, bribing guards to secure passage on a ship. The surviving gladiators emerged to find Aurelia's dying words echoing in Milo's mind. Cassia was locked in the villa at the volcano's base. Milo refused to leave without her, splitting up with Atticus. While Atticus made for the harbor with other survivors, Milo entered the villa, rescuing Cassia moments before the burning structure collapsed. Her best friend, however, was crushed by falling rock. Outside, the streets of Pompeii were a stampede of panic. Corva, ever ruthless, ordered his men to kill anyone blocking their path. But the earth retaliated. A burning volcanic boulder crashed near Corva, shaking his resolve. Meanwhile, Atticus, trying to flee to the harbor, encountered a massive tsunami forming in the distance. Realizing escape was futile, he saved a baby separated from her mother, returning her once the wave subsided. As Milo and Cassia briefly found shelter from the rain of fiery stones, it seemed the worst had passed. But the volcano grew angrier, spewing even more destruction. Milo and Atticus reunited, deciding their best chance lay in freeing the arena's horses. They discovered Roman soldiers and the lifeless bodies of Cassia's parents. Cassia tearfully said her goodbyes, only to be captured by Proculus and handed over to Corva. Corva chained Cassia to his chariot in a desperate attempt to flee. Milo and Atticus pursued, but Proculus intercepted them. Atticus, knowing the stakes, stayed to fight while Milo chased Corva. In a vicious duel, Proculus mortally wounded Atticus, but the gladiator refused to fall quietly. Breaking his sword, he plunged the jagged blade into Proculus's throat, ending the Roman's life as lava surged closer. Meanwhile, Milo caught up with Corva. In a fierce battle, Milo overpowered the senator, leaving him gravely injured. Cassia, summoning her own strength, chained Corva to the overturned chariot, ensuring he would share the fate he had inflicted on so many. As the chariot was swallowed by fire, Milo and Cassia attempted to escape, but their horse faltered under the weight of two riders. Realizing they could not outrun the volcano's wrath, the lovers embraced. In their final moments, they shared a kiss, choosing love over despair as the fiery end consumed them. Atticus, standing defiantly against the advancing lava, met his death as an undefeated champion, his legacy etched into the ashes of Pompeii.